Great companies know how to overcome the pitfalls of inertia. They innovate, not only now, but at every stage of their evolution. How? To answer this question and others, we're joined by best-selling author of Crossing the Chasm and his latest book dealing with Darwin, Geoffrey Moore. It's great to have you here.
Nice to be here. Thanks.
What is the problem with innovation? Companies don't have a strategy for it?
Yeah, well, what's going on is people need to think about what it is they're going to be genuinely different at, the thing that is going to set them apart from every other company in the market. We call that their core, and we want them to spend as much energy there as what they can. What happens to small businesses in particular is they get caught up in their context. All the other stuff you got to do to stay in business, but it doesn't differentiate you, and it doesn't win you the deal.
And when you talk about innovation, you think, okay, I've got a bunch of smart people. They're going to come up with good ideas. They're going to keep this company moving forward. And you're talking about a strategy and a structure, and it just seems like, how do you reel that stuff in? Companies just don't know how to think this way yet?
First of all, decide, are you in a growing market, a mature market, or a declining market? Because the types of innovation that are rewarded at each point in the market's evolution are very different. Growth markets reward high-risk, product-oriented innovations. Mature markets are more interested in operational excellence and customer intimacy. And declining markets, you eventually have to figure out, how am I going to reinvent myself and get out of this category and on to the next new thing? So innovation at each one of those stages means a very different thing. And you need a strategy which says, which kinds of innovation are we going after? The situation right now is with large companies, they have inertia on their side. That's both a plus and a minus. It keeps them going, but it also makes it hard to turn the boat. Small companies, opposite problem. They need impact. The great thing about being a small company is you can change direction overnight, but you need to keep really powerfully focused if you're going to have an impact and kind of win out among all the noise of all the other people in the marketplace.
Do you need to innovate at the different cycles of growth? So you got growth, maturity, and a declining market. Can you innovate at each one of these stages, or is it really just at the growth stage?
That's probably the biggest kind of misconception about innovation here in Silicon Valley. We've always associated innovation with the next big new thing, and that is innovation. But as markets continue to grow, the next thing they're looking for is incrementally the next better thing. Like Google was not a new idea; it was a search engine. Well, Yahoo had search, so did Inktomi, but it was a better search engine.
Yeah, everybody's like, do we really need another search engine? Come on.
And it turned out
never happened.
It turned out we did.
What are some of the myths that you see besides, you gotta start the innovation myth you said in Silicon Valley, just create something versus something better? What are some of the other myths having to deal with innovation?
I think the biggest myth is that innovation is done by people with their eyes closed, sitting in a laboratory, coming up with something great, and then bringing it out to market. I think most successful forms of innovation actually start at the other end. It starts with kind of stapling yourself to the customer, figuring out what the customer's going through, finding the opportunity, the disconnect in their life, and then working backward from that and saying, how would I re-engineer what I do or what the world does to make that customer more successful? That way, if you innovate back from the problem, you don't have to worry about, quote, being innovative. Just solve the problem, especially for small companies, because small companies, customer intimacy is really, at the end of the day, you're local and the big global corporation is global. Your biggest advantage is going to be, can I get close to this customer and really, really, really understand what they're doing and give them a better experience and a better service? And so I really encourage small companies to get out of their building, into the customer world, get close to their customer, and then work back.
Do you have an example of a couple of companies in the marketplace where one came up with just a slight advantage in terms of innovation and really just blew the other one away?
How different is Starbucks from every other coffee place around? What they did was they took an incremental innovation. So they did have good coffee. They had the barista. But then they started creating an ambiance. They had the overstuffed chairs. They put in the Wi-Fi. They started to bring in the music. And they created this amplification effect where everything they did built on every other thing they did. Most companies innovate a little bit over here, a little bit over there, a little bit behind their back. Nothing amplifies. You end up canceling out the effect. So if you take Dell versus Apple, both were highly successful. Dell amplified efficiencies, and Apple amplified design values, and they both have been very successful.
Right.
HP, Compaq, IBM got caught in the middle. They weren't amplifying anything. They were spending a lot of money on R&D, but no amplification. Not so successful.
Okay, so focusing on one area where you can really amplify those innovations makes a huge difference.
Right. You've got to innovate and then amplify the innovation enough that the market sees your offer as dramatically distinct from the alternatives.
So the business landscape's being commoditized. People do things, they get it down to a science, and that's it. Is this innovation in response to that? Do you need to have this, especially in the later periods of a mature market?
Well, what's happening particularly, I spend a lot of time in the tech sector, and the tech sector is now for the first time experiencing mature markets. And so what does happen, our markets have become more global. So mature, large, markets attract low-cost commoditizing competitors from offshore as well as onshore. So the industry, in order to maintain its margins, has got to innovate, but its old forms of innovation are overshooting the mark. So if Microsoft comes out with yet another version of PowerPoint, you're going to say, you know what? You're already pretty overfeatured. So the market will not pay off product innovation. Now what they're going to pay off is, I either want it more conveniently, so Google's going to try to give you a PowerPoint on Google, or I want it cheaper. And the open source people will say, well, I'll give it to you for free. So it's still innovation, but it's innovation moving on into another vector. Off of product innovation, as we said, on to either more customer experience innovation or operational excellence innovation.
Let's talk about the small to medium-sized business. You got 20 plus employees, on up to 200. What is a checklist they could possibly go down for? Are we innovating? What are some things they can do to specifically get them in the mindset of innovating? A strategy, if you will.
But the goal of innovation to pay off is to have differentiation that the customer says, look, I can't substitute somebody else for you. Not unless I get a real big discount. Okay? Right. So now I've got a premium thing to work for. So how do you get that? Three things we look at. One is, try to innovate on a vector of innovation you're good at. So this is the whole core competence idea. So what are we good at? But the second one is, try to find an opening in the marketplace. So a lot of times the thing you're good at, somebody else is good at too. That's not going to work, because you guys will beat each other's brains out. Neither of you will get separation from the other. The customer will play you off. So you want to pick a vector of innovation you're good at, where there's an opening in the market, and other vendors, particularly the leading vendors, are not exploiting that vector. So if I were going after Apple's market right now, I would not try to do it with design innovation, because they're just too good at that. I'd try to do it someplace else. So the thing about, where are you with your core competence, where are you with the competition, and then this third thing, how mature is your market? Because again, to restate it, growth markets reward certain kinds of high-risk innovation, because the market's growing, you can take some chances. Once you're in a mature market, much harder to take chances, much more important to get incremental improvements and pay as you go along.
Which brings us to, what about if the market's declining? It's obviously sort of on the downswing. Then what do you do?
And for a small business, this is particularly painful. Even for large businesses, you watch them find it hard to let go of something, let it go, and move on to the next thing. But in a small business, this could have been your whole life, right? But you have to realize if the category is in decline, while there'll be a long tail, and you may say, you know what, maybe I can just work the tail and hang in there. Exactly, and then I'll just say goodbye. But if you can't, then typically what you have to do is say, look, what is my asset? If I'm losing my core business, what asset do I have left? And almost always for a small business, it's a customer relationship. So what you do is you go back to your customer and you say, look, this part of our business is going away. We've been thinking about your business some more. We think there's some other areas we could work with you. What do you think?
That's a good way to tackle it. Yeah. Well, Jeff, this has been fantastic. It's great to have you here.
Nice to be here.